The opening to self-awareness can present itself unexpectedly through the actions of strangers while living their lives. Hello, my name is Victoria Takeda, a committee member with the Silicon Valley Asian Pacific Film Festival. I'm here to welcome you to our CATS panel presentation, An Homage to Ancestors, as we spotlight author Henry Chang and filmmaker Patrick Chen, whose film Father's Son will screen at our film festival, which opens Friday, October the 28th. I would like now to introduce you to Leanne Lam of Contemporary Asian Theater Scene, one of our moderators who will co-lead our discussion and will introduce you to our panelists and our co-facilitator. But before we begin, please sit back and watch the trailer to Father's Son.
Chief wants the press off his ass. Get me something, Jack.
They can either accept you or reject you.
你想扮佢哋，保護佢哋，當佢哋嘅差，唔好忘記你係邊個。
Do you think you can make a difference here?
Maybe I don't need to.
Hello, my name is Leanne Lam, and I'm Executive Director of Contemporary Asian Theater Scene. One of our key programs is the Silicon Valley Asian Pacific Film Festival. And today we're so excited to bring this wonderful panel to you today. My co-moderator today is someone who I've long admired and is a good friend of mine, Dr. Frank Chong. He's a superintendent and president of Santa Rosa Junior College for nearly a decade. Before that, he was a deputy assistant secretary for community colleges at the United States Department of Education in Washington, D.C. Prior to that, more locally, he was a president of Laney College, president of Mission College in Santa Clara, and he served as a special assistant to Willie Brown, Speaker of the House of the Assembly. Welcome, Frank.
Good to be with you, Leanne. Thanks for including me, and it's great to be with you and to reconnect with my childhood buddy, Henry Chang, and to meet Patrick Chen, the great filmmaker, up-and-coming star. Look forward to it.
Excellent, thank you. Let's go to bring Frank, Patrick, and Henry on board. Patrick Chen is a filmmaker from Queens, and his work they typically draw on the lives of Asian American characters, and he attended Hunter CNU New York, where he studied writing and film. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Great. And Henry, I'd like to introduce a little bit more about you. You're an American detective story author from New York City, born and raised in Chinatown. You've based your Detective Jack Yu series primarily in this setting, and his objectives is insider view influences the development of story setting. And you're an author of at least 5 books, and you are a film star to add to your resume, right?
Very minor role.
Every role is important. Excellent. Well, let's get started on the conversation. I was wondering, Patrick and Henry, how did you get your film project started? How did it develop? Was it a tribute to Henry and his books, or a tribute as an honest portrayal of characters? Because you really humanize the Asian American character.
I'll be honest, I didn't know about Henry's work a few years ago, like maybe a decade ago, until Henry kind of plastered up all his posters of his books, Year of the Dog, Chinatown Beat, at all these iconic restaurants that I used to go to after, going to a party or going to a bar like Wahop, Hop Key, 69 Bear. I'm like, what is this? And then the fine print said Detective Jack Yu by Henry Chang. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's about a Chinese American detective in New York. So I was very interested to meet Henry at the time and want to read his books. And I guess a mutual colleague introduced me to Henry, and then we start talking, and him how he wanted to develop it into a movie at the time or whatever whatever live adaptation. And fast forward, I did a couple short films, and Henry was very proud of me, and he saw eye. And when I heard that compliment, I was like, hey, you know what? Can we do something about Detective Jackie, but not really adapt the first book, but make a side story, give you like a proof of concept, and show the world like what this could be, this universe that you created, you know, of Chinatown in the 90s. So that's how it started. And we did some research, raised about $50,000 on Kickstarter. Friends and family, the community, all of Henry's friends, all chipped in and supported. And then later on, it started trickling down. All these talented cast and crew members started coming in. They wanted to participate, or just like, you know what, I just want to do it for free because I want to do something for my community. So down the line, it became more of a community project. Yeah.
Well, it definitely is a spotlight, you know, love for the community, and got a lot of help from the community. But I also took it as a personal tribute. I mean, it was pretty obvious, and I appreciate that from Patrick. Not anybody else was really interested in doing much about it, but Patrick had the talent and the capacity to do it, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Patrick and Henry, the film opens with a scene between Jack Yu and his father, and this spotlights the intergenerational relationship of children with their immigrant parents, and the many roads to resolutions is one that resonates deeply with many Asian Americans, including myself. Can you talk about the spotlight on this one issue and its significance to the characters, the father and son, and the story?
Oh yeah. I mean, it kind of relates to the first question. Like, what we wanted to do was really make this into like a really authentic, not Chinese American, but Cantonese American story, you know, with the characters. Because, you know, not many people know that most of Chinatown was, you know, made by Cantonese Toisan generation back in the days. So in New York Chinatown specifically, it was Cantonese and Toisan. And, you know, I grew up with my grandfather and my grandmother, not so much with my dad, but they grew up in that generation. And I saw how they interact, how they talk to people. You know, I was called Joksing by his peers because my Chinese was not good enough. So I just took a little bit of my personal experience and put it into like of Henry's character, so Jack's dad. And then of course I took snippets of some of Henry's books, some of the scenes in the book, like a little bit from Chinatown Beat, a little bit from Year of the Dog, and really try to pull out the persona of how Jack is going through being haunted by his father, and how his father sees him as more of a colonized, Joksing, you know, American. So with that, I think every Chinese American first generation, I think they all experience that for sure. I think that's why it resonates with all of us, because we're pretty haunted by our immigrant family, because they want the best from us, but they don't know how to really convey their personal feelings towards us.
Thank you.
You know, whether or not you're born in the USA, or maybe you immigrated here as a young person, if your parents are immigrants, there's bound to be some conflicts over culture and language somewhere along the way. And these confrontational situations between father and son often, it ends up in anger and recrimination. And for instance, when we were growing up, Frankie, we would go to American school during the day, and you get off at 3 o'clock. Then our parents made us go to Chinese school. That was another 2 hours. And then it's like, you know, it was a long day. And then my brother and I, we weren't like too good with that. So we played hooky, and we played hooky for a month before they found out. You know, like, who are these two kids? And my father went to the school, and they came looking for us and said, they're not here. And he one day waited for us in the street, and when we left to go to Chinese school, and he followed us, and we went to my friend's apartment. We would play there every day, and then at 7 we would come home, and then, boy, did we get a beating. You know what a gaimo so is?
Yeah.
It's the feather duster, you know, and you get the thick ones, and we caught a good one that day. But just as in a father-son, much of the problem stems from the younger generation adapting to and bonding with American culture. And with the older generation, the immigrant generation, clinging to that immigrant history and culture above all else. And in our story, there's two sons,
Yeah.
right? One is meets a violent end, a dead youth, and the other is Detective Jack Yu himself, who recalls his own regrettable and combative past with his immigrant father. So these conflicts are not unique. They're rather commonplace in our transplanted communities. Fathers who brought their families here for a better life and then are disappointed that their sons are like brought into this inferior culture. And, you know, they consider inferior because China has that more than 3,000 year history, and America has like 300 years. So it could be argued which is a superior culture, but that's the kind of stuff that tears families apart.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Henry, as a writer, you really humanize the Asian American male from the mainstream stereotypes and images, and you broaden the landscape of what it is to be Asian American literature. Can you talk about this journey, how you've navigated this as a published writer?
Well, there's a whole history behind that. This Asian American male image. We've gone from this buck-toothed kind of ridicule of Mickey Rooney to just straight up vilification. Fu Manchu and Charlie Chen. And, you know, it took a couple of generations just to get us to Bruce Lee, where we could humanize and feel good about ourselves. So we've gone from outrage to humanizing ourselves out of necessity, to move from shame and humiliation to positivity and pride. So when I was writing and developing Chinatown Beat, the Chinatown criminal underworld was exhausting. I would hang out in the gambling houses and, it was just a fascinating world. And then at 9 o'clock, I'd have to go to college. I had to go to class and I'd be half asleep. And, but I was able from all that research, gambling houses, dens of inequity, drug and alcohol and gangs hanging out, and all of that. I was able to transform some of that into projects that my Asian studies professors liked. I made this little Super 8, it was Super 8 in those days. Made this little film. So, I was able to cobble some of those stories together and I got college credit for it. So, that was very worthwhile. And early on, the stories that I put together that eventually became Chinatown Beat were roundly rejected. Nobody liked them. Macmillan, Random House, every publishing house in New York City didn't. No, it was unlikely. This is not the Asian American literature compared to the existing stuff that was out there. Chinatown Beat did not fit that stereotypical, quiet, hardworking foreigner immigrant story image. My Chinatown didn't seem like that touristy, cheap food, gift shop Chinatown that they become accustomed to and were familiar with. So it was kind of like, thanks, but no thanks. And, it took a number of years before I ran into Doris one day and she introduced me to these two people who became my agents. And in a short period, there was Chinatown Beat. But it was a journey of like 15 years.
Henry Patrick, Torihara made a statement, the art of creating art as an Asian person is an act of activism. What prompted your activism and when did you become aware that you were an activist, and from whom did you learn about becoming involved in change movements, and how does that influence your storytelling?
I'll say this, I wouldn't say I'm an activism. I mean, I try my best to support the community and do what I can do my work by showcasing it or just volunteering my time and efforts and my resources to pay it forward, especially, these days with Asian hate crimes and, injustice with what's going on. People like Henry, Corky, Jeff, Kai Ma, even Perry Young, they're the ones who pioneered the way, like doing their stuff when they were young. That happened a lot in Chinatown. I mean, Corky documented this all his stuff in his photos, through his story, and I think they're having an upcoming feature film about him coming soon. So by seeing that, it kind of motivates you. It's like, what can we do to help motivate ourselves and generations ahead of us? So for me as a filmmaker, I just want to just do positive representation, try to do good work, and make sure that it's been seen in the future and people can relate. Kind of like we have American history books that doesn't really show all American history. So why can't we fill those chapters through our storytelling, through our film, through our TikTok videos, whatever's going on. But yeah.
Patrick's a lot younger than I am. So he kind of missed that fire of the 70s. And, my longtime activism stems from Chinese people in America being marginalized, made invisible. And I was defiant against this notion that our true and real stories were meaningless and that our struggles were for naught. So I reject the racist mantra that the Chinese here contributed nothing to the building of this country. We are part of the fabric of America. And, it's woven into the fabric through our blood, our sweat, our tears. And so the 70s, when I went to college, protests and defiance and activism were normal on our urban college campuses. Columbia was burning. We took over CCNY. We shut down the buildings. We didn't burn anything, but we had bandanas, waving flags, and we took over the buildings. And we got Asian studies. We got Black studies. We got all these things that we fought for. And I think that's for me when some of the change started happening. There were already people during those days that were speaking out against racism and against injustice. People like Charlie Chen, to people like Chris and Joanne, who were our troubadours. And so, we had some kind of leadership. We had some examples to follow. And that's around the time I met Corky. And just some fiery, turbulent times that I think brought around a lot of change.
And to piggyback off of that, I think right now, yes, you did live in the fire, but for now, our fire is just, we're trying to assimilate ourselves in the media. I think what I can say is that the changes that need to be made is like more POC, especially in this production, like more Asian American needs to be behind the camera, not just in front of the camera, because who is going to tell our story in the most authentic ways, because most of the stuff you see is really stereotypical or just don't understand the writing to it. And I think we need to change that, especially the union in filmmaking. I will say this, I was in a production and someone came up to me, it's like, me and my colleagues, like, there's only 3 Asian people in the art department. I never see anyone else. And predominantly is all white, because they're the gatekeepers. And I think they need to change that, let people in so we could have a job, learn from them, the crafts. Otherwise, who else we can learn it from? But luckily for me, me personally, I got people like Henry, Taima, Wingley, Jeff, even Corky, who all motivated me, encouraged me, and just took me under their wings. And I think that's what we need to change, just taking the youth and helping them out.
Yep, absolutely. So to both of you, how will you continue to use your voice? Either individually, together, because it is our stories that we need to tell by ourselves.
I will say this, Leanne. I think right now, for me, my voice is Cantonese American. I think it's being phased out. We don't see much stories of that, especially what you said to Henry about like, Asian men. Like, I don't think they have told a story about the Cantonese American male side of it. I think that needs to be told more because everything kind of shifted from Mandarin or mainland China, which is fine, but it really kind of skipped a generation of a history that we all grew up, which, especially for me, especially positive representation, because a lot of things have been stereotyped, like martial artists, gangsters.
We got anime Wong on a quarter. We don't have no Chinese men on even a postage stamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think by telling our stories, that'll help. you know, I think slowly will change. You know, like people like Kwei Hui Kwan and Dennis Dunn, they're like the ones that really represented. They weren't non-stereotypical. They were just people you can relate to, like the average guy. They weren't like model looking, but they were just acting, giving their performance, and that's something I can relate to. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Since I'm a writer first and a filmmaker second, you know, I have this other voice which I continue to tell the stories. This kind of more literary voice. It's a different approach to it because when you write something, people read it, they see the images in their mind. Everybody sees something different. When you make a film, what you see is what you get. If you see Ronnie Chen on the screen, you get Ronnie Chen. But if I write you Jack Yu, he's 27 years old, you think of whoever you want to think of. You have a, you know, so I'm going to continue telling stories, meaningful stories that mainstream media doesn't seem to be interested or just refuses to acknowledge about us. I'm going to keep doing that. Matter of fact, I've just written another short story. It should be out in November. And it's not Jack Yu, but it's you know, it's all Chinese.
yeah, well, I just really appreciate both of you because as a Chinese American growing up in, you know, New York City and having moved to the West Coast to read your books, Henry, and to watch the film, just brings back memories and something I can take my daughters to and say, I can tell you about what it was like growing up in New York, but for you to read about it in one of Henry's books and watch it in one of Patrick's films, it's just such a gift. And you both are a gift to the Asian American community and to the movement. And so, you know, I take my hat off to you and just much love, you know, and I really look forward to promoting both of your works because those stories need to be told. And, you know, if these kids don't have their history, you know, they're going to have no future. They have to know from where they came from, just like African Americans and Latinos need to tell the story of their ancestors. We need to do the same thing and not lose the Corky Lees and the Charlie Chins and all of those folks that paved the way for us. And I really believe in that. So I just really want to tip my hat off to you and really honor you guys for what you do. I know there's a lot of no's before you get a yes. So Leanne and I say to you, yes, 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 and keep doing what you're doing because it makes a difference, not only for people like me, but for the next generation. So thank you for being with us. And I really appreciate that. And I'll turn it back to Leanne to close out.
Thank you so much for those kind words.
Thank you, bro. Right on.
Really agree. It's if we are in a real pivotal place. We're transforming everyone's identity, not only Asian Americans, but everyone is changing and transforming and becoming more woke. It's absolutely necessary that we influence that process as much with the right stories, with the right identity markers and leadership. So thank you so much for the torch and holding that and your perseverance and passion to get this project out and your continued projects. On behalf of myself and Vicky Takeda and Isaac and Frank, thank you so much, Patrick. Thanks you so much, Henry. Really appreciate your time.
So much.
No, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone watch A Father's Son happening the Silicon Valley Asia Pacific Film Festival and outside of that, all other film festivals. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Okay, Frank, see you in the hood.
Oh yeah, I'll see you at Walhup, man.
Thank you, ladies.
Thumbs up mean, okay?
Thank you.
Miss you later.